my mom's shirt today because I couldn't find a shirt to wear, although it is giving me like Greek vibes, so I guess it kind of works out. Oh hey, my name is Nadia and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is going to be a pretty special video because one of Bubba's really good friends is turning 97 years young, and I wanted to make her a special birthday cake because first of all, she's a super sweet lady. Second of all, she watches all my YouTube videos, which just means like the world to me. And third of all, she's turning 97. That's just amazing. So for her birthday, we're going to be making a Grčka Torta, which literally translates to Greek cake. Why it's called that, I am not 100% sure, but it is truly amazing. Hopefully you've had some sort of variation of it. If you haven't, honestly, you are missing out, and hopefully you can make it after today's video. So on that note, let's get cooking. This cake is gonna sound really complex at times, but trust me, it's not as scary as it seems, and I'm gonna do my best to break it down for you. The cake part itself is very simple. You're gonna start off by separating 9 egg whites into a bowl. I just hit the eggs on one another and then toss the yolk back from shell to shell. Just be careful to not get any yolk into the egg white because it's gonna affect how the egg whites fluff up. And also avoid getting any shells in there. If you do, just use one of the other eggshells to scoop it out. It's gonna make it a lot easier. Keep those yolks in a container somewhere on the side because we are gonna be using them later on. With the whisk attachment, you're gonna fluff up your egg whites. You wanna do this on a pretty high speed. And in case you're wondering why I always mute the mixer scenes in these videos, it's because the mixer sounds a little something like this. It truly sounds like an airplane is going to take off. But you need it to be on that speed because you need to get the air into the eggs so that they fluff up. When the egg whites start to get foamy, you're going to gradually add 9 tablespoons of sugar and continue to whisk until it forms a stiff peak. Be careful to not overbeat your egg whites. The whole mixing process takes about 5 minutes. It's super quick, so just hang out by your mixer and wait until you get those stiff peaks. Then you're going to fold in 9 tablespoons of ground walnuts and 9 tablespoons of social tea biscuits. Feel free to switch these ingredients up. If you don't like walnuts, you can substitute it for another ground nut, and if you don't like or you don't have social tea biscuits, you can use one of my favorites, which is plasma, or any sort of kind of neutral biscuit cookie thing. Transfer the batter to a pan lined with some parchment paper, spread it evenly, and bake for 15 to 20 minutes at 325. In our oven, 20 minutes was perfect. I don't think that's gonna help you a whole lot because you have no idea what my oven is like, but just in case. There may or may not be some trial and error involved with getting your cake layers right. We are using a pan that's 12 by 17 inches, and earlier in the day my mom did a trial run where she used 7 egg whites, 7 tablespoons of sugar, walnuts, and ground social tea biscuits. Oh my god, there's like 4 ingredients and yet it's so hard to remember, but she used 7 of everything. Once it came out of the oven, the cake layer kind of shrunk a little bit, and we realized that it was too thinly spread, and I don't really know what happened exactly, but it was a lot smaller than 12 by 17. So she tried again with 9 of everything, and that was the sweet spot for this pan. If you use a different cake pan, your measurements are going to be completely different. I'm really sorry. That's honestly just the reality of this cake. The other thing with this cake is you can't triple the recipe, bake it in a pan, and then cut the layers to however many you want. It truly is a 1 layer at a time, and the layers aren't very thick when they bake. So if you want a tall cake, you are going to need to bake and bake and bake. We made a total of 8 layers for this cake, which doesn't sound super crazy, but when you break it down, it's 72 egg whites, 72 tablespoons of sugar, 72 tablespoons of ground walnuts, and 72 tablespoons of ground social tea biscuits. And that is just in the cake itself. We have not even gotten to the filling yet. The filling for this cake is like none other. If we have extra of this filling, which we tend to have almost on purpose, we eat it with a spoon. It is that good. I would make this filling just on its own. Forget the cake layers, like just give me a bowl of this filling. I need to explain it so you guys understand, but it's really good. We tripled the recipe for the cake, which is how I'm going to explain it to you guys, but down below I'm going to write it out as a single batch so you can play around with it. You can double it, triple it, quadruple it depending on what kind of a cake you make, or you can make yourself your own little tiny bowl of this filling and enjoy, because like I said, it is truly that good. Remember those egg yolks from earlier? Get them ready. If you use 72 egg whites, you technically should have 72 egg yolks, but we're only going to be using 45 of them, which is still an absurd amount. You're probably going to have a whole bunch of leftovers, but that's okay. Eggs are good for you. So take 45 egg yolks and add them to your stand mixer fitted with the whisk attachment. To this, you're going to add 300 grams of sugar and whisk until the sugar is dissolved. Add 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 12 tablespoons of flour, and 500 milliliters of milk. While that's mixing, take a pot and add 1 liter of milk to it. And once it's just about to boil, you're gonna whisk in the egg mixture and just keep whisking until it thickens. We're essentially making a pudding. It shouldn't take too long to thicken. If it is, you can just increase the heat a little bit, keep whisking, and you should see something happen. AKA it get thicker. And when you can draw figure eights in your mixture and they hold, you're good to go. Remove it from the heat and let it cool completely. And that is not where our filling ends. We are not just making a pudding for this cake. Oh no, that was step 1 of 3. Step 2 involves adding 6 cups of room temperature butter to your stand mixer fitted with the paddle attachment, and then adding 400 grams of icing sugar. Mix until super well combined, and then spoon by spoon add your pudding mixture to the butter mixture and make sure it is nice and combined. You go spoon by spoon because depending on how thick your pudding is, it can clump really easily in the butter. So this just helps avoid that. I, however, had so much filling that I had to do it in 2 batches. So I did half the butter with half the pudding, and I didn't listen to my mom. I just added all the pudding in. So she was like, it's gonna clump. And I was like, no, it's gonna be fine. And it was. I got lucky. Who knows, maybe the next time I make this cake, my pudding will have a different consistency and it will clump. Take this with a grain of salt, do as you please, you have been warned. Step 3 of the filling is where it really comes together. You're gonna start by crushing 600 grams of social tea biscuits. Think medium coarse chunks, nothing too big, nothing too small. You're gonna do the exact same thing with 600 grams of walnuts, and if you have a food processor, go ahead and use it. It's gonna make your life a lot easier. And finally, my favorite part of the filling, 600 grams of semi-sweet baker's chocolate. There is no wrong answer when it comes to the chocolate you add to this. Whatever it is, it's gonna taste amazing. Milk, dark, white, a combination of all of them. Go for it. Add all the chopped ingredients to the pudding mix and you have yourself the best filling in the world. Now to assemble the cake. Like I said, our birthday girl is turning 97, so we are making 1 big 9 and 1 big 7. I used a stencil I found online, which I will link down below, and then I just took 4 cake layers, cut out a 9, and took the other 4 cake layers and cut out a 7 and filled them. Don't be cheap with the filling. First of all, you should have made enough that you have extra, so there's no reason for you to be stingy with it. And second of all, like I said, the filling is the essence of this cake. The actual cake layers, very basic, very much just there because they have to be there. The filling is what makes this cake, so put it on and put it on thick, please. I also use the filling on the outside of the cake because you know what, it's really just that good, you want it literally everywhere. The cake sat in the fridge overnight and the next day I made an icing for the outside of them. You could make literally any icing you want with this cake. It's really more so if you just want that smooth finish on the outside. Sometimes what my mom has done in the past is before she mixes in the chopped walnuts, cookies, and chocolate into the pudding mixture, she'll take some of the clean pudding, put it to the side, and that's what she'll use on the outside of the cake. Beware, it does have a slightly yellow undertone, so if you do want a crisp white finish, make your own icing like I am doing right now. In a stand mixer fitted with the whisk attachment, you're going to combine mascarpone cheese and icing sugar. And once properly combined, add whipping cream and whisk on a pretty high speed until it forms stiff peaks. You almost need a slightly thicker icing for the outside of this cake because the pudding that we put on the outside, it's coarse, it's chunky, there's pieces that are sticking out. So if you want to cover those to be smooth, you need something that's a little bit thicker, or if it's thinner, just keep adding layers until you get the look that you're going for. I did my icing in 2 rounds, the first being a dirty ice and the second being the final layer. You don't have to do this. This icing itself was thick enough that I could have just done it in one, but I decided to do it in two. So there you go. Now to decorate. I started off by adding some flowers. These ones are fake, so I just made sure to wipe them down, and then I wrapped the stems in saran wrap just in case. If you do want to use real flowers on a cake, please do your research on the flower first. A lot of people will use baby's breath. It's actually slightly poisonous and you're not supposed to be putting it on food and stuff like that. So just be very careful, be very mindful. If you do find a flower that is not poisonous, that is pretty, and that you want to put on your cake, I do still recommend wrapping the stem in saran wrap. Just, you know, I feel like it's just a little cleaner, you know, avoid anything. I feel like it's a given, but that's just my tip. I also added some chocolates, macaroons, strawberries, and blueberries, and I think it turned out okay. This cake is definitely very similar to the one that I made for Baba's birthday in the summer. It's really just the cake part that's different, but nonetheless, I think it looks cute, and I'm happy with how it turned out. My mom has been making this cake for easily over 20 years. I think she made it for my christening, she's made it for baby showers, birthdays, weddings, you name it. This cake has celebrated that occasion. But I think this is the first time we have ever cut it into a shape, and it worked pretty well. I'm really happy with how it turned out. The beauty of the Grčka Torta is it is sturdy. Okay, this cake is not going anywhere. When my sister got married, my mom made this cake as their wedding cake, and like, I can't even imagine how many eggs were actually used in that. We were trying to figure this out the other day because she made 3 tiers, and we think the middle tier was like 14 or 16 inches, and then the bottom one had to have been bigger, and then the top tier was like still a huge cake. So you can, and oh my god, it was a tall cake. So easily over 200 eggs were used in that cake, which is really crazy to think about. That's a lot of eggs, wow. The whole point of this story is that we froze the top tier of that cake. You know, like some people, they take the top tier, they freeze it, and then they have it on the 1-year anniversary, which is exactly what we did. And I don't know if it was a combination of the cake itself and my mom's like wrapping skills, because give this woman saran wrap, she will wrap it to the 9s. This cake tasted fresh. It honestly tasted like it was made like yesterday. It was so good. Even these cakes that I made today, if you just took off like the chocolates and the blueberries and the flowers and whatever and froze the cake itself, it would taste really good. Depending on how you wrap it, it might get a little freezer burnt, but if you do a good job, you're good. I made a tiny cake for myself from the hole that was in the 9, so I'm gonna cut into it and show you guys what the inside looks like, and then I'm gonna taste test it. Not because I don't know what it tastes like, but because I just love this cake so much. Honestly, these are some really nice cake layers. This is the first time I've ever made this cake by myself. Obviously my mom was here to guide me a whole lot, but oh my gosh. It's just the best because you get those chunks of like chocolate and stuff, and it just makes it so much better. But I love how it turned out. It is so good. I'm going to teach you 2 Serbian words today. The first one is kora, which means cake layer, like the very specific individual cake layer. For example, there are 4 koras in this cake. I find it really confusing in English because sometimes when people say cake layer, they mean cake tier, and it gets a little jumbled in my head. So kora to me is just like, okay, I know like 1 kora. The second word that I'm going to teach you is devedeset sedam. So devedeset is 90, sedam is 7. So devedeset sedam, 97, because that's how young Baba's friend is turning. I think that's an amazing age, and I mean, it could be anything. You could flip this cake, she could be 79, she could be 67. Just, it's all about perspective and how old you feel up here. That's all for me this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I honestly hope that if you don't make a Grčka Torta at least once in your life, you're able to try it somewhere at least once in your life, because it's truly one of the best cakes ever. Time consuming? Yes. Worth it? 100%. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys soon. Bye. I have to say some of this for my mom, but honestly, I just eat it all. So oh my god, sorry. It's getting mixed up in my head. When my sister got married, you almost need a slight, could it have been 200 eggs? Yeah, I guess that would make sense. Because even just in this cake, so 8 layers, we use 72 egg whites. And she easily had 8 layers in one tier. Yeah, so there was like at least 200 eggs in that cake. Holy crap, that's a lot of eggs. Remember those egg whites? No, not the egg whites. When my sister got married, my cake made this mom. 7 egg whites, 7 tablespoons. Where's my coffee? I have to go get it. While that's misking? Is it mixing or whisking? Whisking. No, mixing. While it's mixing, okay. Is you can just increase up the heat. While that's I messed it up again. I don't know where I was going with that. Hold on. What was I saying? I'm gonna start over. And finally, my favorite part of the 600. Pretty sure baby's breath is poisonous. I'm gonna double check.